Doom Eternal is out now. It launched today and it's available to play right now, right, Henry?
Yeah.
So this is our first impressions video to let you guys know what we think about the game. Henry's had hands on it. We've been reading some reviews and we're here to tell you all about it before you play the game or before you decide whether to pick it up or not. It's one of the biggest AAA-ist games to have released in the last 3 months. I don't know what happened with that sentence. But the first question for people is, before they pick it up, for veterans and newcomers to this franchise, what are the differences? What are the changes? That kind of thing. And, is it suitable for them? Will they enjoy it?
Well, that's the question, because it's called Doom Eternal, but it's sort of like Doom 5, sort of Doom 2 at the same time, because Doom's been a franchise forever. It's one of the iconic Doom first-person shooter games. Everybody knows that. But in 2016, there was like a soft reboot, and it was really, really good. Everyone loved it. Well, most people. You didn't like it, which is really weird. So now this one is a sequel to that, but you don't need to worry about story or anything, because that's really not what Doom is. Like, there is a story, and it's there in the background if you want to go digging, but the setup is demons have invaded Earth in this one. You're a legendary warrior called the Doomslayer. What you do is you kill demons, so grab yourself a shotgun and stop them. And
start running at them, because the gameplay kind of incentivizes you to, but we'll get onto that in just a second. So what are the changes this time around for those people who've played the 2016 version? What have they added to the game this time?
Well, this is pretty much a bigger version of everything. Like, there's more of everything, and it's much more in your face. It's more Doom than Doom ever was, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
There's just more demons, a bunch more mechanics, more action, more story as well, despite me just saying that the story is not that prevalent. And there's meant to be a different multiplayer mode this time around, but I haven't had a chance to get my hands on it because my copy arrived yesterday and the multiplayer goes live today, so I can't speak to any of that. But one of the major changes that I've noticed from the previous one is all the mechanics are way more front and center in it's a tactical game. It's very... Doom has a reputation of being run and gun, blow everything up, go crazy, but there is a logic to it. It might have its own logic that you might not quite understand at first glance, but there is a strategy to playing Doom Eternal.
Yeah. You can't just do it mindlessly. You can't just kill them mindlessly, because there is a strategy to it, which is you have to keep farming the enemies for resources as you're playing. Otherwise, you will just run into a brick wall, right?
Yeah. That was a bit of a thing in the last one in 2016, but it was nowhere near as harsh as it is this time, because this time, if you run out of ammo, you're fucked, and you will run out. So then you have to do certain things to get it back. To get ammo, you have to use a chainsaw, and that's pretty much what it sounds like. You go up to a demon and you rip part of him off with a chainsaw, and you get one pip, like one charge of that every time that recharges after you use it. But you can pick up extra fuel cans throughout the level for single-use extra charges. So all of the weak enemies, your standard zombies or imps or whatever, they can all be chainsawed instantly. You don't even have to wear them down. And then that refills all of your ammo. You then have to... It spurts out of them in bright colors and you collect it. It's pretty obvious. But the bigger ones, they can require all 3 charges. So you'll need to go through the arena and find the fuel cans to bolster your chainsaw. So that concept applies to health, ammo, and armor. So the health version of it is what's called glory kills, and that was in the last one and is arguably the best thing about it. I love it. I think it's such a great mechanic because it forces you to play aggressively, and if you don't like that, you're not going to like Doom. If you don't like getting up in their face and killing stuff, you won't like Doom.
Yeah.
But the glory kills, you run up to them, you shoot them a bit, and then they start flashing, and then you can instigate this glory kill, which is just a brutal death animation where you'll rip their head off, or chop their head off, or break an arm and beat them to death with it, or something like that. But
so it's kind of a double reward. You get health, and you get to see this awesome animation of this enemy just torn into pieces.
Absolutely, just getting nailed. But it's definitely not an opportunity to sit back and relax. The animation is over in a second, and it's back to it. It's just a little flare, a little flourish to kill anything, and that can be done to any enemy. The standard ones you can just shoot a couple times, then they're ready to go, but the bigger ones will take a little bit more work, and then you get a more rewarding kill animation, and there's a bunch of different ones for different enemies based on where you are, if you're behind them, in front of them, above them, whatever. And then when it comes to armor, this is a new feature, because armor's been part of the franchise forever, but to accumulate it, you used to just have to find it in the world. It's a little green plates or helmets or chest pieces or whatever. But this time you've got an item called Belch. Which is as pleasant as it sounds. It's like a shoulder-mounted cannon, very much like the Predator, and it spits fire at people. So they set on fire, and it does gradual damage, but it's not a damage-dealing weapon. The point is that it will generate armor while they're on fire and when you kill them. So that's how you replenish your 3 primary resources. But that this cannon on your shoulder also acts as a grenade launcher now, which is another one of the new mechanics, which then you have to consider, because certain enemies, if you shoot a grenade in their mouth, that's the quickest way to get them ready for a glory kill. Otherwise, you just have to grind and just shoot, because they've got, a beefy health bar. But if you just shoot a grenade at them, cuts through that, then you can jump on them and rip their eyeball out.
So how does the progression work in the game?
Well, there's a bunch of different progression parts. So you've got your weapon progression, so you unlock weapons throughout the game, and Doom is very well known for having a wide variety of very different feeling weapons. But beyond just having a shotgun, you can then find these little drones in the world, and you can get weapon mods. So for the shotgun, you get 2 different ones. I think one's a grenade launcher, and one's like a Gatling gun, but for your shotgun, and you can switch those on and off on the fly. I can't remember if you could do that in the last one. You could definitely find the mods, but I don't think you could just change them on the go. I might be making that up, I can't really remember. But then on top of that, so as well as finding different weapons, finding different attachments for weapons, you can then upgrade those attachments for the weapons by doing challenges or specific unlock conditions within the mission. And then there's they're called Praetor suit upgrades. That's for your actual suit, and that's basically what it sounds like. It's stuff to do with your suit, so it's resistance to environmental damage, or fundamental skills like being able to move through the world faster, like climb things faster, or your grenades do more splash damage or recharge more quickly or whatever. Then there's Sentinel crystal upgrades, and these can be found in the world as well. And these are split into blocks, which is a bit more confusing but a bit more interesting. So these can boost your health, ammo, or armor, so your max capacity for any of those. But all of these blocks are in pairs, so if you get both parts of the same block, you'll then get a bonus. So if you get one that's the health one on one side and the armor one on one side, together they'll then give you an extra bonus, which will be like enemies drop more health, and that's a bit more, it's not just health or armor, it'll be here's an extra bonus thing.
So these are like some of the mechanical differences between the 2016 version and this new one. They've also added a couple of other like new things, like there's more exploration this time, and they incentivize that with like it's like puzzle areas, and you get rewards at the end of them. And there's also platforming. Now talk to us a little bit about that and how they've implemented it, whether you enjoy it.
Yeah, platforming seems to be very much the most divisive part of the game so far, because a lot of people play Doom because they want run and gun action and not platforming. I mean, there'll be a little element of platforming in the levels, jumping up boxes to avoid enemies, but this is proper like swinging from bars onto climbing things and dashing in midair. Dashing's a new ability as well. I don't mind it, but I don't love it. It breaks up the action nicely and gives you a bit of a breather between the crazy high-octane demon encounters, but it does feel imprecise, so it can be frustrating when you're trying to do it, and through not necessarily any fault of your own, but you'll just fuck it up, and you'll then die. Luckily, you respawn quite quickly, which is just like a little drop of health, and it's not too bad. But there's loads of collectibles and hidden armor or extra lives throughout the level, and to access a lot of those, you've got to go through these platforming things. Platforming, for the most part, you don't have to do a lot of it. There's certain sections where you have to do it to get to the next bit, but they're not too complicated, at least from so far from what I've played.
But there is a lot more story this time, right? So how is that implemented, and how do you find it?
Yeah, that's another one that's been a little more divisive, because as I said earlier, Doom has always had a story, but it's very much in the background, and if you want to go digging for it, you can find it, because there's like a million text logs and paragraphs upon paragraphs of this specific demon and the demon culture and their way of life and stuff. And then there's the sci-fi elements, because Doom has a lot of sci-fi in it that people seem to overlook. This time the story's a lot more central, but it's still not the main focus, if that makes sense. Like, it's there, and there's cutscenes with characters who and fully voiced and everything, but if you want to skip through them, you won't be like missing out on the core experience. And I think it breaks things up nicely, and it gives you a bit of time away from the action, and then you can jump straight back into it and feel like ready to kick some ass. And I feel like the Doom Slayer or Doom Guy or Doom Marine, whatever you want to call him, his principal method of communication is just cocking a shotgun. Like, the opening cutscene of it is like the music ramps up and he just clicks it, and then he's just like, okay, yeah, let's go fuck some shit up.
So sometimes that's all the communication you need, right?
Exactly. It sends the message.
And in terms of breaking things up, this time there's a fortress, which is like a hub world or something, right?
Yeah, and again, this has been a little controversial and sort of divisive, but I quite like it. So it's called the Fortress of Doom, which is very very ominous, and ominous, one of them.
Ominous, right?
So it's this hub world, which is basically like a space station, and it's proper, you know, gothic, but very sci-fi at the same time. There's a lot of skulls and demon heads and stuff, but they're all like made of metal, and there's neon and electricity and whatnot. And that's there for a reason in the story. But again, if you don't care about the story, it's just a place for you to explore and find your collectibles and weapons. And it's kind of like a real three-dimensional space where you'd find collectibles and stuff in a menu. Instead of looking through them in a menu, you find them here. And it can be a bit of a faff to get around if you're trying to look for something specific, but I quite like having a hub world to interact with things like that. So you can collect standard collectibles. There's like mini sort of Funko Pop-esque toys of all the demons, which turn them from really monstrous beasts into adorable little vinyl figures. You can look at all your weapons you've unlocked, and you can collect music, which is great. So far I've only collected the original Doom theme tune, but hey, well, it's a great way to start.
And obviously you fast travel to your next mission from there too, so yeah, it serves as the center point of the wheel where you choose your next spoke, which level to go to. So all in all, I think your impressions are pretty hot. I think obviously you can glean that you are enjoying. I mean, that's despite a couple of diversions from what the core gameplay is and the core enjoyment is. Like you mentioned, the platform is a little bit divisive, as well as the story and the fortress and that. So I've had a look at the general consensus on Metacritic, and this game has reviewed really highly. I'm looking at a 90 on Metacritic on the PC and Xbox, and then an 88 on the PS4. There's a bunch of reviews in, so it's been reviewed very highly, that's for sure. And user score 9.1 on the Xbox, 8.6 on both PC and PlayStation 4. I always try and look at some of the more negative reviews to balance out all the positive ones, because we do know that Pete Hines doesn't like to give out reviews to people who don't like their games, who haven't reviewed their games highly in the past. He said that in a podcast recently. So some of the more negative ones that I've picked out, and why they're negative, why they bashing on the game essentially. So the worst ones were Games Radar and Slant Magazine, both rating it a 3.5 out of 5. Now first up, Josh West from Games Radar said, I can count the number of first-person shooters that can function competently as platformers on one hand, and Doom Eternal is not among them. If you can bite your lip and endure some routinely frustrating levels built around platforming, then you're going to have one hell of a good time with Doom Eternal. So he likes the game, but he does find the platforming very, 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 very bad. He doesn't like it at all.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying a similar sort of thing, and like the best example of first-person platforming that comes to my head immediately is a game like Titanfall 2, which did it really, really well, really, really fast-paced, and he's right, Doom Eternal isn't that. So if you're looking for that sort of thing, you're not going to find it.
Next up, Slant Magazine again, 3.5. We're talking 70% here, 7 out of 10, whatever we want to measure it.
Which still isn't terrible, it's just not as good as
terrible at all. Stephen Scaife commented, as thrilling as it is to see Doom Eternal try new things, the game also dilutes some of the carefully honed appeal from what was once a more coherent whole. So watering down the core of the original, or the reboot original, with some ideas. I mean, there's pros and cons to that, right? It obviously doesn't appeal to the people who loved everything about the first one, about the original 2016, but it does introduce new things to try and vary up the formula a bit. I mean, it's a bit of give and take, isn't it?
I disagree with it saying that it dilutes some of the carefully honed appeal, because what that carefully honed appeal is still there, and if anything, there's a lot more of it, and it's turned up to 11. There's a whole new set of mechanics, as I said earlier. There's this extra focus on gameplay, all this extra stuff with the platforming and story parts and slower segments. I don't think they dilute any of that. At worst, they're just there and you put up with them. I don't think it makes the rest of it any worse.
So there you have it, 2016's Doom, a reboot with a bit of extra refinement to the formula, bigger and better version, you could say, with some added extras in there, fresh enemies and weapons, and introduces platform and exploration, the new hub world, and all sorts. Apparently the campaign lasts 15 to 20 hours, and there is also a multiplayer mode, a 2v1, where you can actually play as a demon against the Doomslayer, which sounds super fun, although like we said, we haven't had a chance to play that yet. So there you have it. Those are our impressions, as well as some of the reviewers' thoughts, and just a roundup of what this game has to offer. So go and check it out. I know a lot of you will be spending a lot of time at home over the next few months. Maybe this is one to add to your list, maybe not. Maybe look for Animal Crossing if you're not into all this blood, guts and gore. So that's it from Henry and I. If you want to support the content, head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. We'll see you again in the next video. Until then, bye for now.